All right, it's time to talk Miami football. Of course, we bring in Cam Underwood from State of the U to help us out. Cam, we appreciate the time, man.
Yeah, man. So we're just here talking a little football. It's always a good time.
Yeah, so no spring game. Can you fill me in on that one?
That's the big thing that people have been talking about. Miami did not have a public spring game this year. There's some minor. Excuse me, my phone is making all this noise right now. It's crazy. But there's some minor construction going on at Sun Life Stadium, or is it Sun Life now? Hard Rock Stadium. There we go. So that precluded us, Miami, from getting in there for a spring game. And Mark Richt didn't want to go back to Lockhart Stadium, which is a smaller public stadium in Fort Lauderdale. And yeah, so it just didn't come together to have a public event for that. But they had a last scrimmage at Boca Raton High School, which is Mark Richt's alma mater. And so, yeah, did that for a couple hours yesterday, got on the field. They invited media there. They also invited kind of the top level Hurricane Club donors to go see that. So there were people there. It just wasn't, thousands of people as we've had, in other venues or things like that. So kind of a point of contention because, everybody always misses football and wants to see that. And, it was kind of the haves versus the have-nots, like, oh, we give money for our season tickets and we support the U, but you're saying we don't give enough money to get into this thing. And, so there was some of that chirping, but just kind of a situation circumstance. And, at the end, we got our 15 spring practices, got 3 scrimmages in, so and got out of there relatively healthy in a sports kind of sense. So, yeah.
But to set the record straight for those people that get it all caught up in whether the game's on TV, certain programs put their games on TV, especially if they're affiliated with a conference that has a network. Some pack the house and make a big deal out of that. None of that matters. They're practice sessions, and then there's scrimmages, and they actually hold other scrimmages that are just as important that nobody gets to see just because it's the last scrimmage. And a lot of programs make a big deal out of it. Doesn't necessarily mean that there's anything wrong if you don't.
Yeah, it's just kind of one of those things for optics where, it's nice to get the fans all out there and kind of get that esprit de corps, as it were. But, yeah, onward we go.
Yeah, they start to count to the first week of September. So by what you can gather from all of your sources and getting out there yourself, not just this particular last session, last scrimmage, but for the entirety of the spring, what do you take away?
The big takeaways are that the quarterback position is still unsettled. We knew that coming in, replacing Brad Kaya, whose name is all over the record books for Miami Hurricanes passing numbers in a career and individual seasons. He's going to the NFL draft, and replacing him is going to be a challenge. So as kind of became clear throughout the last couple weeks of spring practice, the named co-leaders at the end of the scrimmage were Malik Rozier and Evan Sheriffs, a redshirt junior and redshirt sophomore, respectively. They're different guys. They bring a different kind of skill set to the table, but consistency for both was lacking. And yeah, so, that's going to continue through the spring and into fall camp. Obviously, N'Kosi Perry, 4-star signee, quarterback signee, he was there at the scrimmage yesterday, has a playbook and everything that he's working on to get acclimated to the system and whatnot. He should be to Miami in May, so hopefully he will make a challenge for the job as well. And that's kind of what's been thought of for a while, that while Miami might name a leader or co-leaders, as it were, N'Kosi Perry would be given a chance to win this job because, as I've said previously, Mark Richt had Perry as his #1 overall recruit in the 2017 recruiting class. Players are developing on both sides of the ball fairly well. Michael Irvin Jr. got a shout out for tight end. Darrell Langham at wide receiver. Ahmmon Richards, was All-American last year, continues to dominate. Mark Walton at running back, treating him a little bit with kid gloves because we don't have much in the way of depth at running back. So him and Travis Homer are pretty much all we have right now. Treon Gray coming back from a knee injury, and Robert Burns just is oft injured coming in as an early enrollee. So, 4 guys, but really 2 scholarship guys throughout the spring is challenging. So there's that. On the defensive side of the ball, the defense looks good. The defense looks really, really good. That front 7 is going to be dominating. The linebackers are developing. You have Darian Owens, who's coming back his second year back after a knee injury, finally starting to get back to his old self in terms of speed and quickness. Obviously, the 3 freshmen who we started last year who are going to be sophomores, they're developing really well. And the defensive line, those are just some dogs up front, man. I mean, there's just so many of them. John Garvin comes in as an early enrollee, and he's making plays. Joe Jackson had 8.5 sacks last year. He's making plays. Chad Thomas, Kendrick Norton, R.J. McIntosh, Trent Harris, Demetrius Jackson, Anthony Moulton. I mean, just the list goes on and on and on, and we don't even have all of our guys because Deontay DJ Johnson, coming from Sacramento, he was the recruit in the last recruiting class who had the most scholarship offers out of anybody, and he's not even on campus yet. And he plays D-end. He's 6'5", 240, 245, and he's been running in the low 11s in the 100-meter dash in his high school track season, which is freakishly fast for a guy that size. So, I mean, we just have a bunch of really, really good players up front. Coach Kuligowski is just phenomenal at defensive line. Manny Diaz's defense is really just playing the way that Miami should. In the secondary, there's a little bit to be desired still. You move Sheldrick Redwine from corner to safety, and he's slotted for a starting spot right now next to his high school teammate Jaquan Johnson. Malik Young looks like he's taking leaps and bounds forwards at one cornerback slot. We have a couple guys coming in soon. Dee Delaney, who's a transfer from the Citadel, could have been a 4th-round draft pick this year, but decided to be a grad transfer coming to Miami. Also, Javante Dean, who's 6'2" and runs in a 4.3s, coming from Berlin Junior College. So more talent coming at the defensive backfield, and even developing guys who are there, like a Robert Knowles, like a Romeo Finley, like an early enrollee, Amari Carter. So yeah, there's just a lot to like on the defensive side of the ball. No matter which level you're looking at, things look really, really good. So there's still something to be desired, and I know that there's been some other fan bases that are talking about Miami's quarterback situations being very dire. I don't see it as being that dire. It does need some settling and whatnot, but there's talent there. And I didn't even mention Jack Allison, whose arm is probably the best out of any of the guys contending for the quarterback job. But there's talent there. Obviously the production needs to get a little bit better, but I think that the rest of the team is in a good spot. Offensive line is gelling together and stepping forward as we add more talent there as well. So as you look around, and I know it kind of seems like homerific, like everywhere you look things are good. More or less they are. Nobody really missed with the injury other than Robert Burns, who just kind of tweaked the shoulder a little bit. Cade Weldon, who's son of Casey Weldon, early enrollee quarterback, he had a concussion. He missed a little time after he got hit during the first scrimmage. Or was that Jack Allison? I think it was Jack Allison, excuse me, who missed some time with the shoulder contusion and a concussion. But otherwise, nobody's lost for the year. No ACLs, no, big things, big injuries wise like that. So I think that it was a good session for everybody, and we're moving forward.
You said it 3 or 4 times, so it finally penetrated. The defense looks good. But if you have any concerns, it's still offensive line developing and the secondary's young.
Yeah, I mean, and then just who's going to be the quarterback, because that's the most important position on the field. So, yeah, those things, offensive line developing and seeing when we get a couple guys back like a Nick Linder and a Suddy Ndagwu who are still out with injuries, but those were previously sustained. Obviously injecting, getting Trajan Bandy, Dee Delaney, Javante Dean in the secondary so they can, add more talent at the cornerback slots and, develop that way. And then obviously quarterback. So, yeah, I think those would be the 3 areas I'm really looking for, to find common ground and be settled more as we move forward. But overall, yeah, strong. And that defense, really good.